ask you first of all, Jacek Saryusz-Wolski, your countryman now appointed the first President of the European Parliament from the newer member states. Many made a big deal about that in the Chamber, the end of divisions between the East and West. Do you think that's over-egging the pudding, as we say?
Well, since those 5 years which are just passing, there was a growing feeling that new member states should be somehow re-elected to the top posts in the Union, be it Parliament or the executive, and that's symbolic. That Buzek, a Pole, foreign Polish Prime Minister, on behalf of the new members and Poland and those who brought about the reunification of the continent, is elected to this very prestigious and important post.
And does it matter in a country like Poland? What's the research?
It does. I mean, he was very much supported, and the public opinion in Poland was very excited about this new function for the compatriots.
I think that in this economic crisis is once again becoming painfully clear that there are all sorts of divisions, and that we risk seeing Europe as no more than the sum of 27 times the national interests. And I think it is crucial that if Europe wants to maintain its position in the world, and if we want to get out of this crisis and make Europe robust for the future and future generations, that we have a joint strategy rather than competing each other. We should have a strong Europe and compete with the rest of the world.
I mean, this would have been a bit more significant, Brian Simpson, if it had been a real election. It wasn't. It was a coronation. It was a stitch-up between groups, as Paul Nuttall's party said in the Chamber.
Yes, the big groups get together, and the groups get together to try and sort out the relative candidates for both presidents, vice presidents and quaestors. But at the end of the day, members have a secret ballot and nobody knows what goes on that ballot. I think it's very significant President Buzek has been elected. I think it is a sign of the times, and I agree with what Sophie said about the fact that it puts an end, in my view, to this old member states and new member states.
Well, this is just another example of the undemocratic nature of the European Union. It was a big group stitch-up. It was like a papal inauguration minus the smoke. But what I will say is, we've now got Mr. Buzek, a man who was involved in Solidarity in the 1980s, a man who fought communism, who, in my opinion, is now representing an organisation which is looking more like the Soviet Union every day.
Well, you think it's funny anyway.
It's totally undemocratic. You're moving away from the people and you're dictating to the people. And what you're creating is a European superstate, where a superstate which the people do not want to be involved in.
We've been fighting for years and years to be there, and it's our own will and choice. So
well, why not have a referendum in your country on
ask whether we
treaty?
treat it as a Soviet Union. We don't. For us, it's freedom.
Why not have referendums across Europe on the Lisbon Treaty?
But it is a bit rich, telling a Polish MEP that he's signing up to something that looks like the Soviet Union, when he and his countrymen have been fighting against that.
It's grotesque for me to hear such a thing. But let me say that I think the same mechanics to elect speakers of the House of Commons or national parliaments is the same everywhere. Parties get together and they select a person. And then there are 1, 2 or 3 candidates, and then there is a vote. I don't see any major difference between the way President of the Parliament, European Parliament is elected, and national parliaments. So really, no difference. Let
me just move on on to another election, and that is the election, or at least the approval of President Barroso, the man who's been chosen by the member state governments to be the next Commission President. Well, it's a re-election, a reappointment. Now, the Parliament has said, no, we're not going to do it this week. You have to wait till the autumn. Your new leader, Guy Verhofstadt, for the Liberal group, Sophie in 't Veld, and as well as the Socialist leader, have given a big list of what must be fulfilled. Now, it does look as if the Commission President is facing possible defeat if he doesn't take on this wish list. And then a lot of it, though, is completely unacceptable to EU governments.
Well, I think, and my UKIP colleague here will be pleased to hear that we as a European Parliament actually take this very seriously. And we want to know what the programme is of Mr. Barroso. The Council, i.e. the national governments, have nominated him without having any clue as to what his programme is. And we have said, well, we want to see your programme. And for us, the Liberal Democrat group, the following 5 points are key points. For example, we want to see a single European recovery plan for the economic crisis. crisis. We want adequate supervision of financial markets. We also want a European commissioner with the portfolio of fundamental rights and anti-discrimination.
Okay, well, two of those things for a start, Brian Simpson, the UK government's never going to accept, is it?
Some of the other governments are never going to accept, but I come here to represent what I think the best views of my constituents, and in that regard, we as socialists, we have some concerns about President Barroso, particularly on the social sides, and we are looking for some guarantee that those social aspects of the European Union are progressed at a better manner than they have been in the past.
So you're prepared to defy your own Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, who said he would, who was supporting Mr Barroso?
It's never bothered me in the past, Shireen, so, you know, why change the habits of a lifetime? I think what we've got to decide, what we've got to take on board is what the rest of the socialist family are saying. And there is a point here that the most undemocratic bunch of all are the member states. The member states tried to foist this on the Parliament, wanted a decision this week, wanted him confirmed this week. So if UKIP are talking about papal inaugurations, then it's the member states who have tried to instigate a papal inauguration.
Sort of true, but I mean, Jacek Saryusz-Wolski, your group, the centre-right group, which is the biggest group in the Parliament, would have supported a vote, a rubber stamping exercise this week, no?
We would like him to be elected now to show the stability and predictability of the executive of the Union for the sake of the citizens' lives and fight with the crisis. Second, I cannot agree with Sophie, saying that nobody knows what is his program. He has been dozens and dozens of times here, and we exactly know what is his program, not only verbal, but what he has been doing. So recovery plan is part of him as the old president. So we perfectly know those who contest, the left and the liberals and the Greens, they're just contesting the democratic verdict of the citizens of Europe who voted very much in favor of the centre-right, who won these elections. They don't want to recognize the result of the elections. It is profoundly undemocratic, and they want to force Barroso to have a program not that under which we have been campaigning, because we said, and we are the only political family to say, we are campaigning, this is our program, and this is our man. They did not dare, or they were not prepared to propose the man. We propose. And he has approval of the vote all over the Union. And now those political families are contesting this democratic verdict. It's profoundly undemocratic.
Okay, let me come to you in a minute, Sophie, but what do you make of this, Paul Nuttall?
I mean, this is just crazy, isn't it? I mean, I do find it grotesque when I hear Barroso talk about democracy and then in the same breath he calls referendums inconvenient. You know, it's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's the structure which is the problem. It's not the figurehead. I mean, the fact is that the Commission meets in secret and dictates 75% of the laws of my country, and that is absolutely
why isn't your group
wrong.
coming up with a constructive list of what it wants Mr Barroso to do then in the next 5 years? Because you've been rather silent.
Well, we have been silent because we don't recognise the legitimacy of the Commission. It is absolutely and fundamentally wrong that we have a Commission that meets... I didn't vote for any...
Why don't you use your power here at the European Parliament to
I didn't
hold it
vote.
to account?
None of my constituents voted for the Commission, and they can't get rid of the Commission, so therefore it is fundamentally undemocratic.
Sophie.
Yeah, I'd like to come back to what my colleague from the EPP said, that people... I recognise the fact that people have voted for a centre-right parliament. So, yes, I recognise... No, I'd like to respond to you. I recognise the fact that it is up to the European Conservatives to come up with a candidate. But you did not campaign with Mr Barroso. And if you tell me that we know what Mr Barroso stands for, in that case, I note that for 5 years there's been a standstill, that Mr Barroso has been absent and passive on the economy, and that under his guidance there's been a complete erosion of civil liberties and fundamental rights. So if I judge him by what he has done the past 5 years, for my party it's very clear, no.
Let me ask you finally, looking forward to the next 5 years...
Nobody votes for your government.
Jacek,
the people of Britain
looking forward to the next 5 years before we go, let me ask each of you, if there were one initiative or piece of legislation, Brian, starting with you, what would you like to see come out?
I would like to see more emphasis on consumer rights, particularly in my area of transport, more rights for the travelling public when things go wrong, and also more effort made on making our roads safe. The road safety issue, the deaths on Europe's roads is appalling, and we need to do something like that.
Sophie?
Well, apart from the urgent economic questions, of course, I will be campaigning a lot for the anti-discrimination law, because people in Europe urgently need a law to protect their rights. And I think another issue also to do with civil liberties is freedom on the internet. That will be a big issue for the next 5 years.
The European Union should reaffirm and strengthen its role in the world, and specifically in Eastern Partnership projects. Policy of the Union vis-à-vis this Euro-Asian space is the key problem for the Union for the remaining years ahead of us.
Paul?
I'll be campaigning for a no vote in Ireland.
Okay.
Because quite frankly, we've got to stop this place acting like a South American military junta.
Okay, well, on that note, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks very much, all of you.